Do you know how nerve-wracking that would be for me to do?
Man,
gave me a panic attack just thinking about doing that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had to tell like multiple men and women how great their butts would look in our jeans. And I also had to say, oh yeah, your butt would look great in our great fitting jeans. It was like the worst tagline of all time. Like, couldn't you have made it more natural sounding?
That was like the script too, to say your butt would look great. My butt did not look great in these jeans.
You liar.
My wife
and
hates
I'm
my
now
butt
suing
in these
you
jeans.
for defamation.
I don't know. I'm just a 20-year-old kid trying to make a living, damn it.
I'm 45 years old and I trusted you and my wife said no. But hey, look, like you got some amazing smelling room spray out of that whole job.
I did.
Your house probably smelled the best
time?
out of anybody's at Oregon State during those years.
Yeah, because I would steal the room spray. I mean, I think the statute of limitations is definitely exceeded by now. So,
yeah.
Yes, I would pocket
ever
the
even
room
existed.
spray. Because the room spray was just the cologne, but it was like slightly muted and lasted
There's
longer. I
nothing
don't know.
slightly muted about that cologne sprayed throughout the Abercrombies.
I was explaining this to Ev the other day, actually. I was like, it was the way that this worked was straight from the CEO. It was to like literally like overwhelm visitors to the point of like decision paralysis. But since they're there, they make the irrational decision to just buy everything that they see more so than they just walk out empty-handed. And the idea was
medium there that I agree with. Yeah.
Maximize the people who overspend and buy too many things because it will account for the people who are so overstimulated that just leave with nothing.
And the people who are like, that smells too strong and that music is too loud, we're probably never going to buy anything anyway. So you're not really losing anything. And so the people who are just in there freaking out, just like they grab every kind of fitting jeans.
Yeah.
To service every kind of butt. Or
my butt will look nice in one of these.
Someone's butt will look nice in these jeans, and I'm gonna find out who.
Dude, Abercrombie, and then more so Hollister. It was like walking into a different universe when you walked into those stores.
I have less experience with Hollister. I got to Hollister late, and
and I also really have to like put a caveat that my Abercrombie store had like different rules around the experience because it was the old school like
lived by our
plaid store with like the red carpet, you know, and like brown cabinets, the original kind of aesthetic. And but at that time they had started to roll out that like white walls, black hardwood floor.
I remember that. Yeah.
And that's the like look. Yeah, that was the aesthetic though, where they leaned really into like the whole idea of like, just make this an overwhelming experience for everybody and anybody.
Right.
So
one time I
had it a little bit easier.
One time I wore an Abercrombie polo into an American Eagle, and one of the kids working there was like, "Can't wear that in here, man."
Yeah.
And I was like, "What are you gonna do about it?" And I was just like, "Okay, I'll leave," because I was like 15 and didn't know how to fight.
I'm sorry. At the time when I was working,
shouldn't be shopping at either of these stores anyway. But
my buddy G Dank, rest in peace, Garrett. But his dad was COO of American Eagle.
Was he really?
Wow. Yeah. So the feuds, the high school courtyard feuds, the shit talking that occurred.
I think
the Moose versus the Eagle.
I think
what's more American? I guess Eagle.
Right. What's more Midwestern
but
though?
A Moose is more Canadian. Yeah.
I mean, the Moose,
Canada could become America.
Well, I was going to say, which it might not be a difference, and then they both be very national.
If you're just looking at like both like stitching, I did think the Moose was a little bit more classy than the Eagle stitched into it.
Abercrombie was a little bit higher of an echelon than American
for
Eagle.
sure. It was more expensive, definitely too, but I think American Eagle also raise their prices to get up to that.
Hey, not to change the subject too much. No, I'm going to change the subject. You don't even have to transition because I have one that's a little bit still topical, but a different conversation. Terry, I feel like you are probably one of many in the great state of Minnesota who are going to lead the charge against adding Canada to the United States because you don't want to lose the North title. Is that correct?
Yeah, I thought it would be the other way around. I think Canada is trying to annex the whole northern United States.
Would you willingly go?
What adding Canada? No, I wouldn't willingly. No, I like Minneapolis too much, but I do.
No, but if Minneapolis had to become Canada, would you walk into the borders with your hands up?
It would require some follow-ups, but I do appreciate the free healthcare of Canada. There is a little bit.
You appreciate it? You use it?
I appreciate the idea of it.
You're sneaking over the border with your fake ID, getting free healthcare.
The Canadian border is so far from where I live.
You can't have your cake and eat it too, Terry. You can live in the U.S. and get your free healthcare in Canada.
I gotta be a cake eater with Adam Banks and the rest of the Edina crew from the old Mighty Ducks movies. The only time I will say the word Ducks with affection with the word Mighty before it, referencing a hockey team from my childhood.
Well, that's because they earned the name and the other one did not.
Exactly.
Great movies.
Great movie. Just a fantastic franchise.
Great series of movies. Yeah. Franchise of movies. There you go.
Canada is the 51st state. I think they need to get in line behind Puerto Rico, which has deserved statehood for quite some time.
I know, but Terry, we moved on from statehood to Mighty Ducks. You're way off topic at this point.
Did they play Team Canada?
No. Well, yes. I think briefly, but they didn't even show it. In D2, I think it's, how they like flash to those newspaper clippings where it's like this tournament is somehow the front page of like the sporting news.
New York Times.
And the New York, like everything, which it should have been. I think there's one point where it says like USA beats the shit out of Canada. Not those words exactly, because it's a Disney movie that's PG.
Well, it was the 90s. It was the 90s. That could have been a headline.
Could have been.
It could have been.
JP was telling people that their butt looked good in jeans. Anything flew at that point.
They killed They
different
killed Italy, and Goldberg
literally
had some
killed
great
them.
shit talking, going like, hey, Paisan, like I bet if the puck was a meatball, like you, I don't know, but shout out Goldberg.
And no offense to Italians.
Yeah,
but they're proud
because we clearly are not.
No offense to Italy, but if you had a hockey team, it would probably be bad. That's probably, I don't think that's much of a stretch. And
well,
I don't know. Milan
Arizona has a hockey team.
Yeah, but not anymore. They moved to Utah.
Now they don't have a mascot.
Utah Hockey Club. I kind of like that.
I do kind of like it.
The Commanders should have stayed as Washington football team because the Commanders is stupid.
I would agree because Commanders is stupid, but also because their longevity in the league affords them the opportunity to have a generic name and be still recognizable. But the Coyotes, the Peyote Coyote team was clearly a 90s.
Right. Especially that old logo. That logo is sweet. It was clearly
their trim. Whatever their equivalent to your pine trees for the Timberwolves, whatever that is.
Yeah.
It's just very cool.
The Vancouver Grizzlies had a very similar pattern on their jerseys.
Yeah, theirs was more like Salish, more native or first tribe, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure.
First, not tribe. First.
Anyway, Happy New Year.
From New Year's to Abercrombie to the Peyote Coyote. We cover it all.
Is that what his name was? Was the Peyote Coyote?
No, like
no. Well, it looked like one.
Okay.
It wasn't like welcome to the arena, fans. Getting you hyped up for your Coyotes is the Peyote Coyote. Yeah. Maybe they'd still be in Phoenix if they had.
Yeah.
Maybe if they had dusted that off and been edgy. Yeah. But
could've
anyway,
worked.
Happy New Peyote Beaver fan logo.
That'd be sweet.
I'd be so down for that. You know how much I did for a rebrand?
Right.
Well, we kind of did one.
not even like rebrands, but just like different concepts.
Alts.
Like do the
psychedelics?
Just do the Benny Beaver, but he's Phoenix Coyotes version.
Yeah.
I'd be down for that.
JP can do that by the end of the episode, probably.
Yeah, I'm already working on it. You guys can just keep talking.
All right, we'll start doing peyote to give you inspiration.
Yeah, I need to see Benny's face to just try to mimic it with.
Man,
I love it. Well, happy New Year's, you guys, and happy New Year's to you, Beaver
Happy
fam.
New Year's.
Yeah.
Like we probably need to we have so much good, mostly good Oregon State shit to talk about.
I'd say no bad.
We've got there's definitely it's good. The vibes are good. It's a new year, 2025.
Oof.
Turn the page over, looking ahead. Things are fun, things are fresh, and I'm feeling pretty optimistic about pretty much everything related to what brings this show together. But just real quick, did you guys have a good holiday season?
Hell yeah.
It's been a long time since we've had a proper romp with a full episode. But yeah, I know there's a bit of a magician present at the Bertram Thanksgiving, and
there was a bit of a magician present at our Thanksgiving too. His name was Ashton Genty.
Got to see him up close.
He's gone to the NFL.
Future, eventual, soon-to-be Dallas Cowboy, Ashton Genty.
Oh, you think?
Enjoy him, Funky Paul Molina. Yeah, they're gonna do it. They're going to. We'll have an NFL draft episode, not tonight. So, but it's January 7th. Beaver fam, hit us up on social media with your New Year's resolutions and how your holiday season went. We want to hear from you. But yeah, guys, good Christmases, good New Year's is all around.
Yes, sir.
Great, phenomenal,
no work.
Excellent.
Yeah. No work and I showed you guys the pictures. Yeah,
all work and all play.
All play.
I showed you guys the pictures of my in the middle of the project renovated bedroom.
Dude,
at the very beginning of the project.
It's like Legos for adults.
Actually, I was hella mad at you for sharing that because I just finished painting our primary bedroom, which
I hate painting.
Immensely easier than what you did. I hate painting too. But like I was like complaining internally about just because of course there's an accent wall and 3 of the other walls are like a different color. And I was just struggling. And then you were like, hey, look what I did with no crawl space and no anything else. Look at how sweet these new lights look. And I was like, fuck you, Benny, for homeowning me right now.
Dude, painting.
Terry
I did
grabbed
painting
the headphones and threw them across the room. Just any headphones within reach.
They were nowhere near me. I had to go like downstairs to get them and fling them across the room.
Dude, you know what the worst thing about that whole reno project was? Have you guys heard of skim coating?
Yes, I have not.
Yeah. So you know the texturized walls that have like the orange peel texture?
That's all my walls. So I can't build any walls.
Same. And skim coatings where you take it's like putty essentially, or like they call it mud, but you like slap it on the wall and then you like skim it so it fills in all the gaps. So it's just like a slick wall, like a dolphin's back.
Yeah.
Just super slick.
That's better than trying to paint anything that has any texture.
Yeah, for sure.
When you paint with texture, it's like, why is there still like a little white dot?
Painting shit with texture is, it's the worst.
Not fun.
No.
Yeah.
Like a dolphin's back.
That's what someone said on a YouTube video that I was watching on how to skim coat. It said you want it slick like a dolphin's back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. That does work.
It does work. It reminds me of what did Nana say about Coach Ruick?
He's slick.
He could turn a pig's ear into a slick purse. What was it?
He could turn a pig's ear. A pig's ear into a silk purse, maybe? Or no.
Yeah. It was supposed to be silk, but I think it came across as slick.
Autocorrect was like, there's no way you could possibly mean this.
But that's what he's been doing that.
He has been doing that.
Yeah.
Shout out Coach
Team's
Ruick.
looking pretty solid.
New Year's.
Yeah.
And it looks like
2 huge wins.
Yeah.
For sure,
they had 3 straight and I think all of them were decided on in the final seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Clutch play. That team is coming along and playing really well. If playing really good basketball was one of their New Year's resolutions, they're doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've been doing this on the show every year, but it kind of feels like we have. Do you guys have any New Year's resolutions beyond the usual stuff that you'd like to make public?
No, I didn't make one, to be honest.
Ooh.
Does that mean I'm gonna like die this year?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
okay.
I guess you technically
make one now.
Die this year. Yeah, I would not die this year.
Yeah,
have
you ever done that?
I'm going to be richer than Jensen Wong by the end of the year.
I believe you.
That'd be great.
You.
Yeah, because he's going to donate
Coming for you,
all
Jensen.
of his money to the athletic program,
right.
every dollar of it. So then we'll all be richer than him.
Yeah.
And then he'll be like, "Now will you people leave me the fuck alone?" Nice. Well, that's a good one.
Thank you.
Mine is to go to Lubbock, Texas to watch the Texas Tech Oregon State game and not get sunburned.
That's not
the second part.
The last part's not happening. I'm telling you that right now. You are a diehard, tried and true Beaver believer, but you will be a Red Raider when you leave Texas. All weekend. Absolutely.
Yeah. West Texas I think Lubbock is in the middle of the desert.
On September 14th, whatever it is, too, it's going to be
the hottest place on the planet.
Right. Yeah. Imagine we fly into Amarillo and rent a car and drive further into the desert.
You might fly into El Paso, actually. Lubbock's pretty close to El Paso.
I hope we don't fly into El Paso because then you're not leaving. You're not.
The mayor is here. The mayor is here.
Mayor of El
Paso. They go knocking on doors to alert all the residents.
Too many babies to kiss. Too many hands to shake.
I have returned. Nice. I haven't thought of many except one. It's more the usual stuff.
That's important. It's usually just one.
Be kinder. Last year, I couldn't share it on the podcast because it had to be a secret. I think I told you guys after we recorded, but my New Year's resolution was to get engaged. And that happened. So this year, my New Year's resolution is to get married, which is scheduled to happen. I can still fuck it up.
Yeah.
But it is.
Now you're making things public.
Supposed to take place. Now I'm making things. It's already public, but more.
It's
public.
not to have the most off the rails and off the chains bachelor party.
I don't want the bachelor party to be off the rails and off the chain. The fact that we're going to Vegas is maybe channeling that a little bit.
I'm just gonna play Buffalo. I'm just gonna play Buffalo Gold all week.
Man. If having JP there is critical, because if we get into that much trouble, we know JP is gonna win over $1,000 off of the Buffalo slot machines because he always does, and then we'll have the capital to get us out of any trouble that we actually get ourselves into.
You guys want to know a funny story? I told my coworker about playing Buffalo, Stampede, Gold, Platinum, whatever. I said, just be patient, go play for 5 minutes. You may feel like you're going to lose and you want to walk away, but I promise you're going to end up with infinite free spins and it's never going to stop shouting Buffalo at you and making coin jingly sounds.
And how much did they lose?
She, within 5 minutes, turned $5 into $200.
Let's go.
Nice.
And they sent me a video. This is in South Lake.
Gambling coach.
I know. They sent me a video. They're like, I can't believe it actually worked. This game is incredible. So yeah, I watched her win remotely. Well, on a tape delay, I guess. And it was still as satisfying as when I'm sitting there watching myself.
The 90s, that was how we used to have to watch sports.
Oh man, and not knowing what the outcome was.
Yeah, unless you knew how to read a newspaper. Who does that?
Yeah. Oh, that would be real tape delayed.
That's yeah. Way delayed. All right. Well, I think we should get into the proper meat of this episode because there's a lot to chew on, and I'm excited about all of it. And so let's do
a quick, with words there, sir.
Quick beers segment. I haven't seen either of you do anything though, so I don't know. Benny, do you have anything that you would like to point out? You just yawned. Maybe you have
sleeping pills.
What did you mention?
Oh man, no, I do not need those. When it gets dark at 4:30, I do not need sleeping pills.
True. That's
caffeine pills.
Yeah. No, I don't have anything. I should have brought my water down, but yeah, don't have anything.
Nothing. All right. Well, JP,
I have a surprise.
Ooh.
Yeah. Actually, I don't. But I got really good Christmas beers from my wife for Christmas. And I drank one on Christmas Day as we were rushing out to travel to California. And I was like, I'm going to save this other one for our next episode. And then we get home this past Sunday from our trip. And I'm like, this has been chaos. I just want to sit here and pretend like it's like I need it now. And then I cracked the bottle and it was really good. My first one I had was a Block 15 red ale, but it was like this is on Christmas, and it was like a cask aged red ale. So it's almost like a farmhouse ale. It was really good. It was like a sour essentially with other fruit. And then the next one I had was clearly a very dark stout. And as I crack it open and I'm pouring it, I think it was from Breakside, I look at the label and it's 14%.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I slept well on Sunday night. Let me tell you that. So now I just have my surprise Starburst.
Nice.
Yeah, but I fooled you because I was drinking a Space Dust. Yeah.
Nice. Starburst, Space Dust.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very space themed.
Very.
Nice. Well, despite, we don't need to get into this either, but despite starting a new job at a brewery, I don't have a beer. I don't have any beer in my house right now, but I did curate this. I am drinking a nice cocktail of whiskey on the rocks in my vintage Vikings cocktail tumbler. We're not going to talk about what happened the last Vikings game out. They're still going to win the goddamn Super Bowl. Fuck.
I think they will.
Maker's Mark on the rocks because the initials of Maker's Mark are M. The same
Marshall Mathers
as Marshall Mathers.
And JP needs to re-bleach his hair.
And JP is going to re-bleach his hair in honor of new Beaver quarterback Maalik Murphy. Which just the shivvies, getting the shivvies. Maalik Murphy, as I put in the show notes, Maalik Murphy spells Malik with 2 A's because he's a double dose of dad action. Ooh, let's go. Oh. Cheers to Maalik Murphy. Cheers to a new year. And cheers to us. Cheers to you, Beaver fam. Let's go. Let's do 2025.
Yeah. Did you think of that? Did you come up with that?
The double dose of dad action.
2 A's in his name because he's a double dose of dad action.
Yeah. What was the for what I thought? I remember I knew he had a double letter. For some reason, I didn't think it was A. I maybe thought it was I at first. So I thought of something for I, and I've now forgotten it. But then as like the news became official and I was reading more, and it was just Maalik Murphy was everything I was consuming for about a day and a half. And then like 6 days later, when one fucking asshole was like, well, he's not signed yet, he might be visiting Iowa.
That's
we
right.
don't even need to talk about that. But yeah, I was just looking at Maalik Murphy and it was like, oh yeah, he spells his name with 2 A's. And I was like, what? Because I mean, it's inspired by the great Cat Williams bit. Like, my name is Rosebud with 2 D's for a double dose of this pimpin'. So that stole the formation from Cat, but double dose of dad action, which action starts with the letter A, I think. So that's the construction of the bit.
Nice. Appreciate the full breakdown.
Thank you. And so, yeah, that's been episode 168 of the Belligerent Beavs. Thank you for listening, everybody.
We're glad you're still here.
Maalik Murphy. This is fun because there was a flirtation between Maalik Murphy and Trent Bray last season during the transfer portal. And
they had a little rendezvous at PDX.
That's what the report is. That we don't know if he ever got to campus. Now we think that he did not, and they just hung out at the airport. And the airport wasn't finished yet, but the airport's finished now, and it's so sick now.
I've heard it's really cool.
It looks like the fucking Hooli headquarters in Silicon Valley.
I just told Andy last night we need to rewatch that, and I already rewatched it all with you guys, but I want to rewatch it again.
You
for
walk
the 4th time,
and instantly it's like they're Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley?
Yeah.
It's like you walk into the building, it's like they're for sure inventing apps here. And then you're like walking around, they're like, oh yeah, wait, planes also take off and land here as well. That is part of the facility.
Dude, I was watching. Are you guys familiar with the B1M or B1M?
No.
It's like they cover like big mega projects and stuff, and they had
a story on the project.
They had a story on the Portland airport.
Big one Maalik Murphy is that what it's
Malik. Big one Malik. Okay. They had one on the Portland airport and how sick it was and how it's like a state of the art airport and one of the best in the world now.
Yeah.
Or most aesthetically pleasing.
Does it still
shut up, Portland?
Does it still not have clear though? Anyway, we don't need to talk about PDX.
It does have clear. But you know what? My kids were like, God, they were constantly though questioning or explaining to me how it's possible that there are trees growing inside the building because there are real trees like in the main concourse.
Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah, they had all these theories of that they brought seeds in of like trees that can grow anywhere, and I was like, well, what if they just brought the trees in after they had grown, and they were like,
no, it was
you can't move grown trees. What's wrong with you?
Wait.
Like, all right, whatever. Just go stare at the trees for a bit and try to figure out how they got here.
Go stare at the trees.
Resemblant of the seeds that were planted in Maalik Murphy's head at that rendezvous at PDX last year. And now the tree has grown and he's like, yeah.
It's fully cherry blossomed.
Yeah, Brazy, I want to come play. I'm on my way, gangsta, as a great man once said. Shout out Jam Griffin.
Yeah.
Maalik Murphy. I love this. We're going to talk about some of the other transfer portal gains and potential losses as well, but mostly gains.
Mostly.
I think it's been a positive last, 6 weeks or so for Oregon State football. But I think the biggest thing here is to get a big name like Maalik Murphy, who is a name, commands some attention. There's some marketability there. It's his third program in 4 years, whatever. It's the state of modern college football. It's the cost of doing business.
But also I do want to point out, because I did talk about this with a relative, his reasons for transferring have been every time clearly being pushed out with others coming in. It hasn't him been jumping ship for, I'm sure the NIL plays a part in where he ends up, but him leaving was never triggered because of I'm trying to find a better NIL deal.
Yeah.
Each time he's had a quarterback creeping up and breathing down his neck that and the school is clearly telling him that we're going with them.
He did just have, which I imagine would be frustrating after a record-breaking season like the one he just had at Duke.
Totally.
Where he threw for more touchdown passes than any Duke quarterback ever. Not the most extensive history of college football quarterbacking, but this is a thing where it's like, this doesn't necessarily mean any like what national media or people outside of Oregon State think, but this was one where like people I know who are fans of other teams and, talking heads who don't give a fuck about Oregon State at all were like, oh shit, like, wow, like nice get Oregon State. And this is also a thing that I think matters the most for outside perception and internal perception is we are now at a point where it is January 7th, 2025, and we're talking about this. And we 100% know the plan of who is going to be taking snaps as QB1 through spring camp, fall camp, game number 1 against Cal. It is Maalik Murphy. That is the plan unless something goes wrong, unless something happens. And it's not the same thing as we've got a guy coming back and we've got 2 different transfers with different kinds of experience. And we're going to see how the 3 of them play out. This is Maalik Murphy's team. And that is not something I was anticipating being clear when we were coming out of this 5-7 football season. So Bray being able to get this win and this win in the transfer portal, there's some other wins that have happened on the recruiting trail that I think matter, that I think we should talk about. But just Maalik Murphy, what were your guys' initial thoughts? I know some time has passed since this has happened, but it's allowed us to sleep on it, really get our bearings. How excited are you to watch this guy with that cannon leading this offense?
Dude, yeah, it was. I went back to watch his highlights from Duke last year, and that's the thing that stuck out to me the most is like with the flick of a wrist, the ball's 50 yards down the field. It's crazy. And I don't know, like my initial reaction was, do you guys remember 2 years ago at San Jose State, DJU under center and being like, oh, this is what it feels like to have a quarterback that controls the game. Yeah. Like we were texting it like, wow, this feels good. Like I'm not worried about a interception or a fumble every single play. We didn't have that last year. And I'm not trying to dog any of the three quarterbacks. It wasn't what we had with DJU. I think with Maalik, he's in a little bit different of a situation because DJ was coming off of a pretty shaky year at Clemson. Mm-hmm. Where Maalik has shown that he is progressing year after year. And I think he has a lot to prove. Getting pushed out at Texas, then getting pushed out at Duke. Like I think probably has a chip on his shoulder. But I also think that is exactly what Gundy needs, right? Like Gundy needs to have somebody who can know this playbook inside and out and has had experience in big time games and pressure situations, and having that calming demeanor at the quarterback position, putting aside all of his abilities that he has, is going to be fundamental in getting this offense turned back.
Yeah. So I put out the article, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, right after he signed, and I was digging into some of these advanced metrics because I think a lot of this stuff gets lost in looking at yards, touchdowns, interceptions, whatever, win-loss, just to get a solid idea of what kind of productivity should we expect. Maybe not to the same level. I don't know if that's ever fair because circumstances and situations are different, but just like comparing apples to apples, how did Oregon State's quarterbacks do in our system, and how did Maalik Murphy do in Duke's system? And actually, what I was most surprised by was a statistic that I had never even heard of. So shout out culturefootballdata.com for explaining this. So it's usually EPA, and which is expected points added per play, but they have their own, way of measuring EPA with their own algorithm, and they call it predicted points added per play. And it can be a cumulative, it can be an average, etc. But essentially what it means is like if a team starts at a certain point in the field and the expected score from a drive 3 for a field goal, right, and then they end up scoring 6, then like that means that was a +3 for PPA. Sure. If they get closer and it's more likely they're going to be a touchdown, then there's like an in between where they can land based upon their algorithm, right? Like between 3 and 6, obviously more than 3. However, with Maalik Murphy under center, Duke's passing plays were like 4x the average PPA per passing play. And that's not even accounting just for Maalik. That's accounting for every passing play that Duke called. They improved their chance to score by more than a quarter of a point, which doesn't sound like a lot, but you think about how many plays there are in a game, it adds up really quickly. Yeah. And I actually found this chart on culturefootballdata.com yesterday about, and it was to be able to isolate players, not just the team and passing plays. Maalik Murphy last year, specifically him at Duke, had 441 dropbacks during the course of the season. Cumulative average PPA on that 441st dropback was 0.488. Essentially, every time he dropped back, it improved the score potential on the drive by half a point.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Our next highest in dropbacks was, of course, Giovanni. Giovanni had 220 dropbacks, so half the number that Maalik got over the course of the season. Of course, we know why. And Giovanni's was 0.115. Now, he was not the best on the staff when it comes to cumulative average PPA. Benny G, who rumored to not be returning to the program either for pursuing medical school or other football opportunities, but salute to you, Benny G. He had 136 dropbacks and he had 0.3 as his cumulative PPA. And just for record's sake, Jabari had 34 dropbacks in the season, and he had a negative 0.11 PPA per dropback.
34 dropbacks is way more than I thought Jabari had.
Yeah. Now, this isn't counting completions, right? Or
whatever,
but like,
or even incompletions. It's just dropbacks.
Every time you drop back.
Every passing play.
Essentially, our best cumulative PPA was Benny G at 0.3. And that was at a third of the dropbacks that Maalik had throughout his entire season, which was at 0.48. So,
man, that's crazy.
I'm excited because it means that passing plays will keep a defense on their toes. It will make them respect the pass, because the threat of a score happening on any dropback is like at least 35% higher than our best last season.
Right.
And I would argue that Maalik is, and not to jump ahead because we will talk about this later, but I would argue that Maalik probably has better weapons at Oregon State than he did at Duke.
He does have some pretty good weapons, and we never know
the order, a very balanced attack
of when things happen. But a lot of guys said they're coming back, and some that was announced before the news about Maalik Murphy got to us, some after, but the way players, especially like Darius Clemens, came on towards the end of the year, and you saw the way that Duke passing offense was really humming in a lot of those games in the ACC last year. I think this is a huge win for a lot of reasons. I think it's really fun to imagine what this offense will look like. I haven't played college football 25 in a while, so I don't know how quickly the roster updates. Can you play with the Beavs with Maalik as QB?
Are they still updating?
They might.
I don't know.
I haven't tried, but I
get your pre-order for college football.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what they want.
But anyway, they should. It's pretty exciting to think about, obviously, with guys like Clemens and Trent Walker said he was going to come back. Taz Redix, who is someone that we all love and wanted him to get the ball more. I think it's difficult to think about this and not just picture what this offense could look like. And when you think about how good a guy like Hank was last year, even though most defenses were like, these guys are going to fucking run the ball because there's nothing else they can do. I think this will open things up for him. I think it's also important to mention that it's not insignificant for Bray to have a big win like this in the offseason, and just kind of what it says about Oregon State. I'm not trying to diminish things like the game at Air Force. Benny, you and I talked about this in Boise a lot. Like the way Oregon State's season ended, the last 3 games, was that game at Air Force, which is maybe the most dejected and upset I've ever felt about an Oregon State team after a game ever. And then there's that thrilling win against Wazoo on senior day in your last home game. And then you lose to Boise State at Boise 34-16. But Benny, we share as we left that game, we're like, that the Beavs played well. Like we were proud to be wearing Beaver shit in the stadium that day. And like the way they played, how hard they played, the guys who made plays. And college football is a thing. It's kind of always been a 12-month sport. Now it's really a 12-month sport. And I do think it's important from a marketing standpoint to signal to the people who are outside of your community, to the talking heads, to whoever is involved in like NIL stuff across the country. Like, we're here and we're not going away. And that's where like Maalik Murphy, who is a big name, going to Oregon State and signing up to play with the Beavs after this 5-7 season, that washed away my salty feelings about that Air Force game real quick, because it wasn't the first win that Bray had on the recruiting trail for high school recruiting or the transfer portal, but it showed that there's belief in this program from people who matter in spite of like on-field results. Because even while that Air Force game and stuff was happening, Bray has still been recruiting at the same clip that Smith's staff was when they were here before they left. And is. Like, yeah. They are right there with Michigan State in like composite rankings. Like, that's not like, I'm not just trying to look at East Lansing and still be a bitter Beaver fan about this, but you obviously are. It's true. Certain times I am trying to be a bitter Beaver fan about it, but that data is relevant no matter who you are. And I think there is 1 year Smith was flirting with a top 40 ranking, but never quite got there. The fact that Oregon State right now is like top 60, 65 and just over like true, just like talent composite numbers, which is just how many stars are next to your name on 247sports.com. Like that's what that thing means. And of course that doesn't always translate to play on the field, but it is how recruiting classes are perceived by the general public. So Bray hasn't missed a beat. And even if he was 30 places lower. I wish there was a composite
rating though for who you retain.
And yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to get to. There's been wins in the high school recruiting portal. And then Maalik Murphy, which is huge. And people outside of Oregon State were like, whoa, Maalik Murphy to the Beavs. Look at this. And then it's like obviously re-recruiting your own roster, which has been huge. And this was a very impressive re-recruiting of the own roster that Bray just did.
Yes.
And yeah. JP, who do you want to talk about first of that list of talented people who are coming back? Many of whom we thought were coming back, but some are... Yeah. Some are this JUCO thing that is new, like for like Nico Taylor and Tyrese Ivey, who are going to be back, which we didn't expect just because of eligibility. Now they're back in play. And there's a long list of other talented Beavs who you could have easily thought were going to try and get to perceived greener pastures, but they're going to suit it up in orange and black again next year.
Well, I think comparing the 2 years now thus far for the off seasons for Bray, and last year he did an admirable job of backfilling, but it was very much filling a void left by other impact players who had already bailed. And that's, I think, such a critical thing about building a program is retention has to be absolutely top of mind all the time, because if he can go out and land somebody like Maalik Murphy or any of the other impact transfers coming in and bring back the guys who are already familiar with the system, with the team, with Corvallis, with the coaches, with the staff, everything, that kind of continuity is critical to build and sustain success. The fact that there was a 5-7 season and the fact that we had so many key players announce they were returning tells me that, again, that culture is still king. Mm-hmm. And that there are players who are weighing options in the portal who aren't with Oregon State, maybe considered us previously, like Murphy or otherwise, that now have heard, see firsthand, understand better because of their past situation, that they want to go somewhere where the culture is the right fit and is a good fit. And so I think seeing who's been retained, seeing who we brought in, all of it tells me that Bray's building this the right way. I don't think we should ignore the fact that Bray's building and retention efforts are very much aligned with the efforts from Damnation as a collective that is obviously working with him one way or another on who and how when it comes to retention. But that said, like, look, we've got guys announcing they're going to come back who could have left for more bags and bigger bags. Sure. I think that there are people who did leave that were impact players and guys we liked. Like, we loved Isaiah. We loved Melvin. Mm-hmm. But And then obviously it's not worth speculating why they left. Like, I don't know if that matters, but I do feel like if there's a position on a Trent Bray led program that may have more depth or sneaky depth than the fans can see, it's probably linebacker.
Yeah.
And because of that and the communication that seems to be very apparent between Bray and Damnation, it's likely that not a budget was set, but hey, we have more pressing needs. We only have so much NIL money to distribute, and your position is not a need of ours at this point, at least the way that Bray or other coaches perceive it to be. Thus, I know you're worth more in NIL money, but you may not get that here, and you probably won't, so maybe you want to go look elsewhere. And I do think that's what happened with Isaiah and Melvin. I'm just speculating, but it makes more sense when you consider it that way. This isn't people bailing like last season because it felt like, okay, we have a dumpster fire. No, we navigated a dumpster fire. No, maybe it's still a dumpster fire, but it has just been delayed reactions. This is clearly a masterclass in navigating a rebuild in the modern era, a masterclass in working with your collective, with the university behind it, with the coaches behind it. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Bray, I'll do it with air quotes, but Bray has been actively posting about Damnation and supporting the collective over recent weeks. And that alignment is going to be massive for us to build a sustainable winner. And I think it's showing already. I talked about this with you, Benny. All those players announcing that they were returning, there was something uniquely familiar about each one of their posts, as if it was either directed or pre-written. And not clowning on this, but to me as a fan and an observer, there was a theme that told me that this was likely some sort of NIL opportunity. And if it was, that was a genius play by whoever asked to run that opportunity to the players, because you gave them the ultimatum early. Are you in? Are you out? If you're in, you'll post this. We'll pay you in a few weeks. If you're out, don't post it because you won't be here to get the money. And everyone that posted it had a very, very similar theme, vibe, aesthetic. It had an emoji, it had a beaver, it had whatever. I think it made them think about it.
Smiling in the photos too. A lot of smiley photos.
But I think it forced the players to think about it before they were influenced, maybe.
Yeah, of course.
By outside forces, and then make a decision on their own. And so I think of guys like, look, Clemens, I never really thought he would go, given how his season
I was so
went.
worried about it.
I thought that he was going to stick it out because most guys go to parlay a big season. He had a big end of the season, but if they weren't paying attention, like they're not going to, be heavy suitors. Hank, I was maybe more worried about, to be honest. One, because you've got
about Hank.
Alla behind him, breathing down his neck, younger, again, maybe less expensive in NIL, and maybe after what was and still is a very, very legendary season by Anthony Hankerson. Let's say it for what it is. It was
awesome.
In all the top record books, and he could have easily moved on from that. Easily been like, all right, see how good a year I had. Now let's go somewhere where I can get more exposure, or I'll get a bigger NIL bag. And he's sticking it out. So Trent Walker as well. I think that there's just guys that are tone setters. There's guys that are examples that declared they were returning fairly early in this whole process. And that set the entire offseason up for massive success. Guys aren't going to consider you in the portal if you're losing your best players left and right, unless they know their opportunities are limited and everything else is cloaked in front of the fans' eyes. Like, oh, a 4-star guy. He's coming to Oregon State because we have a quarterback vacancy. I think he's coming here because no one maybe wanted him. Not saying that as Oregon State being the example. I'm just saying like that. happens a lot in NIL and transfer portal where a guy has no other options, might look good on paper, picks the only option available. And I don't feel like the guys we've brought in are that way because, I mean, other than quarterback, but quarterback's a position where if you're not the guy, you're not the guy and you're not really anything. If you're coming in to be the guy, then that's what you're tasked with. But like, I mean, you're getting Kyle Wallen, you got Riley Williams, right? Like, there's dudes everywhere that are coming and they're not filling an empty void. They're coming in to enhance a position group. And I think they're doing so because of the level of talent that has been retained and the commitment to and from these players, from the university, the collective, and the team has paid dividends already this offseason.
I agree. And one thing that I really, really like in terms of how Bray is recruiting right now, or at least recruiting the transfer portal, is he's finding talent in programs that have been successful, right? So you brought up Riley Williams, 4-star recruit out of high school. Shout out Central
Catholic Rams,
four-star recruit out of high school, goes to Miami. Can't find the playing field because of the talent that's in front of him, right? So that talent's not lost. He just didn't have a chance to show it, meaning that NIL demand is going to be lower. So Bray gets him, tells him, hey, you're gonna be able to see the field a lot this season. Same thing with Jackson Bowers, 4-star coming out of high school, goes to BYU, doesn't see the field. Now all of a sudden our tight end room is stacked, full of talent.
We do have to say, if we have the same reactions. If this doesn't get the tight ends involved in the offense, Gundy, God damn it, homie, we have to get the tight ends more involved.
But so now all of a sudden our tight end room is stacked. Mm-hmm. We're probably not paying a ton in NIL for that talent, and you have is it?
I would say it's fair to assume though it's more than high school recruited talent. Or JC recruited talent.
It's decent.
Yeah. For sure. But then you get is it Rayshawn Davis?
Like is it
from USC coming up. Yeah. Bring up linebackers, he's going to be filling a void. And again, someone who didn't see a ton of the playing field. So you're getting not diamonds in the rough. That's not the right analogy, but you're getting these guys who do have talent. They just haven't had a chance to showcase that talent at the collegiate level. So you are taking a chance, no doubt about it. But I think it's the right way to build a team at Oregon State.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting angle because nowadays teams can stockpile talent way more so than they could previously, and it's actually getting worse and tipping in the favor of the coaching staffs and the networks and the athletic departments and the conferences than it is the players. Because if you're 3 deep with 3 or 4 or 5 stars, you don't really care who has the success as long as they bring you a championship, right? Like as a coach or athletic department. And previously, most of these guys would be, like say you ended up as a 4-star, you end up at USC, you never see the field. But while you're in college, you're in LA, you're in college, and you're living your best life. And by the way, I was on the football team, didn't play a whole lot, but I won, 2 championships.
Yeah.
Like that era is gone because that is not enough for players these days. And I think rightfully so. Everyone has the dream to go play in the NFL, and they should. No matter what school you're at, no matter what star rating you have, that should never hinder what your goal is. But I think the expectations 15 years ago, 10 years ago, was that, I might be a 4-star, but like, I don't really know if I buy that. I don't know if I have the passion to pursue this full time. I just want to go to a good school or fun school, play on a good program, see if I can win a championship or 2, and then make that my story, my football story. And I'm done. I'm happy to be done drawing the line there. Like, in college, I won 2 championships, but I didn't try to go to the NFL. Nowadays, everybody wants to go play in the league, and as they should. If you're pursuing it this hard and this far, you should. And if you're just going to sit behind other 4 and 5 stars, even though you have equitable talent, but maybe didn't get the opportunity, like you're wasting your time. And I do think that NIL, the fear of NIL was that all the rich will get richer because they'll have the money to buy the best players. But I think players this day and age are smarter than that and will realize eventually, maybe even, across the board, realize I can make way more playing and not exposure by being a bench player on, a top 10 team. Because just because they get on TV doesn't mean that I get exposure for the NFL if I'm not playing. But if I can go somewhere where I can play, then I'm going to maybe even dominate some of my opponents if I'm out talenting them, outclassing them, and it shows up on the field.
Well, and I think the other thing is, so one point with Bray is he's going to winning programs, right? Riley Williams is coming from Miami. Miami had a great season last year. Jackson Bowers is coming from BYU. BYU had a great season last year. SC didn't have that great of a season, but SC is a great program. So you're bringing in kids.
Not the linebacker's fault.
That's true. You're bringing in kids that have that winning, not mentality, but they've experienced winning at this level. And that's important to bring to a team that's coming off of a 5-7 season, I think. But to your point, JP, I think that going after, so essentially Bray's tipping the scale in favor of schools like Oregon State, right? Where if you're Riley Williams, you're sitting on the bench, and in old college football, you're sitting on the bench, you're waiting for your time, senior leaves, you get those snaps, right? That is not the world that we live in right now, because they're going to replace that senior with a tight end that's coming from exactly right. They're just going to keep replacing. And so when you're sitting on the bench, previously you're like, all right, well there's an end of this. There's light at the end of the tunnel. I'm going to get playing time here. And now that's so uncertain, and it is muddy waters. And if you're Trent Bray and you use the angle of hey, for all of this uncertainty is creating so much stress and drama for you, come here and just play football. You'll see the field. You'll get a chance to showcase your talents. If playing in the league is a goal of yours, like you said, you're not going to do that by just getting on TV and sitting on the bench. And here you will get playing time. And I think going after some of those kids who are getting overshadowed by Oregon's a great example of this. They have 30 million plus that they're pumping into NIL. If you're sitting on the bench, man, I'd be so stressed out that I'm never going to see the playing field, because they're just going to keep buying the best. And I think there's an advantage right there that Trent Bray is finding. And he's clearly very good at pitching the program, because we talk about NIL and how NIL is ruining the game. And I think in some respects it is. But I also don't think NIL is the end all and be all with players. I think that there are definitely players that are getting offers for more NIL money that have decided to stay at Oregon State, or have decided to come to Oregon State.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, would you take, if you're making $50K in the current year as a backup bench tight end, and you saw the playing field for, a dozen plays, maybe 24 plays over the course of the entire season, make $50K doing that, and the school comes and goes, hey, we can't pay you $50K. We can do 25, but you'll be on the field every down. If you're 19, 20 years old, I don't know how. I think even looking back at me, I would have been like, yeah, my goal is to not make a measly another 25K, because I want to go make millions, and I can't 100%. Make millions 100% making $50K on the sideline.
100%. And if they don't realize that is definitely something Trent Bray and his coaching staff are just continuing to hammer into these guys. 50K is what you'll be paid for the first half of the first quarter in a game if you make it to the league, right?
When you're playing on Sundays, right? And that's showing in it's the numbers. The hard numbers are 11 incoming transfers so far. I know the winter transfer portal is closed, and I believe it's April 19th or something when the spring transfer portal opens again. So there'll be another wave. You just have to live in perpetual fear, Benny.
No, you just have to wait one day
But
with your ears plugged, and you can really zone out the next day.
Then you get your Christmas, Benny. In terms of the 24/7 talent composite has this Oregon State transfer rank as the 51st best in the country. That is its best in since 2021, which was a different era of transfers, and that was 47th that year, and there was 6 incoming transfers. Henley Bloomfield was one. Keontae Shad was another one. Some pretty good guy. Sam Neuer was another one who played less than those guys, who was hyped up in that. So there's this thing's never a science, but I think it's important for the fan base who want to feel joy. And there is a part of our fan base who will never feel joy, but we can't worry about those people. But the part of the fan base that's looking for joy, there's data here that supports optimism for what Bray and company are doing on the recruiting trail. Locking down the commitment of Tristan Tia, another quarterback, was a big thing. Who knows? Maalik Murphy could be the quarterback this year and then go to the NFL. He could be the quarterback for this year and then be like, this is my ticket back to the SEC. We don't know what it's going to entail, what the end game is going to be. It's a good get for now. It's a good get for next season, but also that commitment of Tristan Tia. Shout out Big Dave Uyunglele, his uncle, who just can't quit Oregon State and was very excited about Beaver Nation on social media when Tristan committed, which I was very happy to see. Like there's been these sort of big recruiting wins relative to the big recruiting wins of Oregon State's past that have kept pace. So if you think that this season was just kind of the downturn into the depths of hell or whatever, there's reason to believe that there's hope at the end of the tunnel. And a lot of these kids are super talented and are exceptional young men, and we're excited to watch them in orange and black next year. And God damn it, Gundy, get these tight ends involved, because Riley Williams and Jackson Powers looks like a sick 2 tight end set.
The other thing that I really like with this transfer class so far is, if you look, we have 11 transfers, and we have at least half of those. I'm going through it right now. I think it's 6, if I'm counting right, are either linebackers or defensive line. And I think that is absolutely huge, given I would say that was the biggest weakness of our game last year, was getting pressure at all on the quarterback. Our run defense stunk. Getting Kelsey Howard to come back is massive, massive, massive. If he can stay healthy and you can add some of these other guys, right? You have the defensive lineman, Kai Wallen from Nebraska, who's coming in, right? It just, like, if you can shore that up, I think that would be huge. That and the offensive line. That's one area where in the spring I would like to see a bit of a focus on the offensive line, because you have so much talent at these skilled positions.
We did get some guys.
We did get some. We got some.
I do want to point out, I believe it was the first transfer in this class, JT Hand, offensive lineman from Arizona. Last offensive line transfer from Arizona, Nathan Eldridge, worked out pretty damn well. So JT Hand, I'm excited about. TJ Crandall, the cornerback from West Virginia, I'm excited about.
Dude, best name in the class. Well, Jackson Bowers.
Well, and also another great name and great player, Josiah Timoteo, offensive lineman from Nevada, I'm excited about. And of course, we got Keon Cox, another offensive lineman from UCF. So the trenches on offensive line are big, because Gray and Lichtenhand will be our 2 biggest losses among the offense this year. They're both competing in the Shrine Bowl later this month. We'll have more coverage on that. Best of luck to both of them as they go through the draft process. Losing Gray will obviously be a huge thing, but it looks like we're already re-upping that offensive line. I just think, Maalik Murphy is the top of the marquee in this, but there's a lot of supporting names as well from both high school recruiting, the rest of the transfer portal, and also the retention of your own roster. There have been more wins than losses since the loss at Boise State that Benny and I had a ton of fun at.
It is the job of someone like Trent Bray is so difficult. I would argue that Oregon State and Washington State are the two most difficult head coaching positions in the entire country because the expectations are massive. And, we all experience what's happened in the last 2 years. But it is like this three-dimensional puzzle that you have to put together of taking chances on guys, maximizing that NIL budget, and having a hell of a pitch. And you're always going to go into a season with a ton of unknowns as Oregon State, right, especially what you get from the transfer portal. And I think what we're seeing right now going into the 2025 season is probably the most solidified group that you can lean on and say, okay, we've seen what these guys can do, right? Like Hank, we know what he can do. Maalik Murphy, we know what he can do. Darius Clemens, like what we saw in that last quarter of the season, like it was unbelievable. Like what we saw at Boise State, some of those plays that we saw at Boise State was just incredible. And so I think that is something that you really just have to applaud this coaching staff on, is being able to retain and get all of this talent is such a difficult thing to do, especially when you're going up against schools that just have unlimited money. Your pitch has to be perfect. And Bray is obviously throwing something out there that these kids are
buying in on.
They're relating to.
Speaking of perfect, I do want to mention that last season Oregon State quarterbacks were 7-4 in the red zone. Maalik Murphy was 7-4, 7 touchdowns thrown, 4 interceptions thrown. Oh. Maalik Murphy was 11 touchdowns thrown, 0 interceptions thrown.
Thank God.
This is what I'm saying. Just like your heart rate's going to be slightly lower than what it was.
Red zone offense has been killing us since like 2004. So if that could just get up a tick, that'd be great. Anything else on football? There's a lot of basketball we got to get to, and we're in minute 75. We're so fucking back for season 5 of Belligerent Beavs Podcast. We are so fucking back. But
double episode.
We are. Thank you for listening to the conclusion of the first quarter of this episode of the Belligerent Beavs Podcast.
Yeah.
Any last remarks on football? I know, JP, you mentioned Benny Gulbranson a little bit. It does seem like that he is.
Salute you, Doc.
His eyes are focused on med school, which is great for him and for the world. So thank you,
definitely for the world.
But also, if he comes back, we're welcoming him back with open arms. Of course, we love Ben Gulbranson.
Yeah. Big fans.
Anything else on football or football adjacent that you guys want to mention? We'll be back next week, but so we've got like 8 months to talk about football things.
Oh yeah, one last thing. Shout out Ohio State.
Yeah, yes, a fellow OSU.
Yeah. There are things that are so true in the world: death, taxes, and Oregon choking in January.
Yeah. Or any bowl.
It's great to see. Or any bowl. Yeah.
What does the University of Oregon and marijuana have in common? They both get smoked in bowls.
Yeah.
That's something I heard in my freshman year. I can't take credit for that. I will take credit for Maalik Murphy spells Malik with 2 A's because he's a double dose of that action, but I won't take credit for Oregon and marijuana both get smoked in bowls. But if you want to give me credit, I really enjoyed that game. And I'm not sorry about it. I had a good time.
Unapologetically loved every second.
I wasn't getting on Twitter talking shit, whatever, anything like that. But I was just, every single time they scored, I was just like, yeah, I was watching it with my future father-in-law, and he was just like, you are smiling harder than I've ever seen you. You're laughing so much. I was like, Doug, this is the good shit. Yeah. This is what I have. This is a perfect New Year's Day for me.
So many surrender.
I became such a big Jeremiah Smith fan for 3 hours.
And let's not forget, Ohio State, mirrored our university with the block up, being OSU. We are the elder, they are the younger, and so they were only trying to model
all they want, but
they're trying to differentiate from us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but, and Oklahoma State was just trying to be us, and that's why they were orange and black. They were like, let's be like those cool guys over there. They seem awesome. Let's be orange and black.
OSU, orange and black. Check.
Yeah. Copycats.
Yeah, that's okay.
Copycat boys.
Yeah.
Copycat boys. Should we move on to basketball?
Let's do it.
All right. JP, please play 5 seconds of Round Ball Rock.
No.
Are we done with that entirely?
Basketball.
Benny, please sing Round Ball Rock for 5 seconds.
Yeah, that's allowed.
Give me the ball, because I'm gonna dunk it.
Well, over the holidays, you may have noticed that the Oregon State men's basketball team had a positive and negative finish in the Diamond Head Classic in Hawaii, with a runner-up finish concluding with a hard-fought but ultimately a loss against the Nebraska Cornhuskers in the championship game. Who will be
a Sweet 16 team.
Ooh,
they look that good.
They are good.
They're going to win the Big Ten.
Up until a few days ago, Oregon State men's basketball only had good losses. The 3-point loss to those fuckers from Oregon at home that's unfortunately, they are a good basketball team. The 3-point loss at North Texas, fucking ballers. Bunch of hoopers on that team. They're good. Nebraska is an extraordinarily well-coached basketball team. Shout out to Fred Hoiberg. And that they beat the Beavs, lost that game by 12, but it felt closer than that. And Nebraska just kind of outlasted us. I will say Nebraska was the stronger team on the night and played better and deserved that Diamond Head Classic championship that every program dreams about when they get together for training camps across the country. But that runner-up finish I'm fine with. And then Oregon State men's basketball starts conference play in the WCC off on the right foot with a nice win against the Pilots at home, who I don't think are great, but are better than their 5-12 record indicates. They took Oregon to overtime. If you weren't paying attention earlier in the season,
should have won that game.
Michael Rataj. We're going to talk a lot about Michael Rataj, and he was amazing in that game. It did not require overtime to get by the Pilots, and most recently they dispatched of the San Diego Toreros pretty handily, but in between that was a clunker at Loyola Marymount. The team currently sits at 12-4. The team defense all season has been great. Assist to turnover ratio far and away better than we're used to seeing. Free throw percentage, probably the best of our lifetime for an Oregon State team. 3-point percentage, fantastic.
So many players that can shoot the three.
So many guys who can shoot the three. This team is cohesive in a way that it shouldn't be because of how inexperienced they are with each other. Because of language barriers. Because there's 15 players from 15 different countries. 55 burgers, 55 fries, 55 tacos, 55 pies, 55 players, 55 countries, 55 shots, 55 games. Clunker at LMU aside, here's what I want to say. This upcoming series, they have a 2-game road trip at Santa Clara and then at Pacific. Santa Clara is currently just below us in the WCC standings. Pacific is dead last. Oregon State has only played 2 true road games this year. That was at North Texas when they lost by 3, bit of a heartbreaker, and this past clunker at Loyola Marymount. So while Wayne hasn't had much of a chance to kind of exercise the demons of being a bad road team pretty much his entire Beaver tenure, even though we're all Wayne guys here, I think that's fair to say. That's something he still needs to do. So I do think this is a very important road trip, especially if you drop a game at Santa Clara and then you play at last place Pacific to be specific. Michael Olowokandi is not walking through those doors. Like you absolutely have to win that game. We've been talking about this team, thinking about March and the tournament all year. And I do think it's not too much to kind of demand a 2-0 road trip to be level with those expectations here. If they go 1-1, especially if it's a win at Pacific and a loss at Santa Clara, there's still a lot of time left in the season. You've got bangers against Gonzaga, St. Mary's, San Francisco, Wazoo, and then the conference tournament to make up for it. It's not all lost, but like they are kind of at a point where like you can't afford what happened at Loyola Marymount this weekend.
You can't afford to lose the games you're supposed to win.
There has also been so much good film put on tape, especially since the last time the three of us all got together, and that Michael Rataj performance against the Pilots, I think finding joy in Oregon State men's basketball has been a really good thing for me in my life. I think for all of us, but I think for a lot of people too, like this team plays so, like when you watch the Olympics and you're like, oh shit, look at this team from Lithuania and how well they play together. Like I do really want to commend Tinkle, Coach Bubba, Steven, the entire coaching staff for like really pivoting hard and putting a team like this together in a not huge amount of time. And just the ball movement is so much better than it's been in recent years. The shooting is so much better than it's been in recent years. And the team defense is fantastic.
You mentioned,
yeah. Defense is unbelievable.
Okay, I know the season's still, halfway done.
Just at the halfway point right now.
But our scoring margin at this point is nearly 14 points a game, which is by far our largest scoring margin on average against opponents in the last 10 years.
And that's better than everyone in the WCC besides Gonzaga at this point. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah.
Gonzaga's like 18, I think.
Okay.
But here, just to pile onto the team defense thing, this has been our lowest opponent scoring average. Of course, again, it's half the season, doesn't account for the rest of conference play, but it is our lowest opponent scoring average also in the last 10 years. So we're outscoring everybody. We're outscoring all of the teams that have played for Oregon State for the last 10 years. And we're playing better defense. So the point of basketball, score more points, give up less points. Like we're excelling in both of those.
I don't know about that strategy.
More than any team in Oregon State's last 10 years, including the 2020-21 season, which, by the way, was, I believe, the last.
That was a sprint at the finish line. That wasn't really a marathon.
But that season, I mean, they were 20-13. They won 20 games, but like
they're good, yeah.
But that was the last season, which who knows how the rest of the season will end up. But that was the last season that Oregon State men's basketball had a positive scoring margin.
Wow.
Well, they should have a positive scoring margin at the end of this year.
They bet.
Almost 13 and a half, 14 points a game.
I worry about how we play on the road. And I've watched just about every minute of every game and think that this team's really special. And I honestly cannot tell if Loyola Marymount had an incredible game, because you had Javon Porter, who is the younger brother of Michael Porter Jr., who went absolutely ballistic and he couldn't miss a shot. Dude's 6'11" and can dribble like he's a point guard. And we didn't have anyone to stop him. And it was weird because defense travels and our defense didn't travel. But again, is it because Loyola Marymount had this specific player who we couldn't stop? And
I just don't think that, given the players that we are, the pool of players we're drawing from, and it's nothing against the guys we have. Yeah, they're just not big enough to go against guys who might be raw athletically, but are physically bigger than us and grew up playing the game in the States. I mean, I think that is a big differentiator.
For sure. And you have Matthew Marsh, who's really the only guy who could guard Javon Porter. But Matthew Marsh is slow. He's really good at what he's supposed to do. And what he's supposed to do is not guard a 6'11" point guard, essentially, out on the perimeter. Like, we didn't have a player to guard him. So and they out-rebounded us, which is not a typical showing of an Oregon State team. They got a ton of second chance points. So I just don't know if that is what we should expect on the road, and if road games are just going to be incredibly difficult for us, or if that was just Loyola Marymount catching lightning in a bottle? I really don't know, but the Santa Clara game I think is going to tell us a lot. It does scare me because Santa Clara has been playing pretty well lately. Oddly enough, their last game was an 81-80 squeaker over San Diego, who we just blew out. So it's just like you shouldn't have games in the middle of the season where you're like, well, this could either be a 20-point win or a 20-point loss. I really don't know. But that's how the Santa Clara game feels. And I do think it's going to tell us a lot about the team. Rataj, as you mentioned, has just been playing incredibly well. I've started to notice a lot of the commentators that are covering the game are talking more about him playing at that next level. So I think he's showing what he needs to show. And his game's really dynamic. What has sort of fascinated me is the players who you thought were going to be huge staples to this team at the beginning, like Fala, who's still a very important player on this team. And this team wouldn't be the same without him. But I thought he was going to be second in line to Rataj in terms of scoring and rebounding. And I think teams have sort of figured out how to guard him. They're double teaming him a lot. But you have Lillavicious. I know I'm saying that wrong.
Just every time you need to say his name, just say delicious. Yeah, just say delicious.
Yeah, but it's not that.
But just say delicious. We'll know what you're talking about.
Delicious, Lillavicious.
Say so delicious.
So he has stepped up. Isaiah Sy has, or Isaiah C.
We thought it was Sy for like 3 years, but
and I can't not see that when I see his last name. He's finally found his shot. So that's great. Damarco Minor and Nate King's like just fucking amazing backcourt. So like we talked about this early on too. Like there isn't the Jordan Pope on this team, but everyone collectively makes this team so much better. And I'm going to go on the record and say that Loyola Marymount was not a clunker for us as much as it was them
just playing
having one of their best games of the season.
And also really matchups matter. Matchups totally matter.
Matchups matter. And our defense wasn't out of sorts. Our zone defense is something that teams have not figured out. And they do have tape on it, and they still can't figure it out. We are double teaming everyone, and there's not somebody open. It's incredible.
No shit talking to the WCC like this. This isn't that they have nobody who can match up and overpower their opponents, but they sometimes just get those diamonds in the rough that can help them through. Some teams get the guy who can help them through conference play for the most part, unless you go up against Gonzaga or a good St. Mary's program. But like to stay afloat in WCC, you have a guy who just doesn't match up well for any of the opponents. They just don't have anyone who can guard them, no one that can defend them, no one that can, go up against them on the offensive side of the ball, whatever it might be. Like that's usually enough for the WCC teams to be upper of the middle pack. And I think we just ran into that. Honestly, I really do think that's all it comes down to.
I'm telling you, there was like a hand in his face, or they were contesting at the rim. Like Javon Porter could not miss. It was truly unbelievable. And like really I was saying, like you just don't have someone that can guard him. And when he gets hot, he gets hot. And I think that's why he's at LMU for a reason, right? Like LMU, not a big basketball powerhouse. He has a ton of raw potential. And he's going to showcase that every once in a while.
30 years ago.
And he showcased that against us.
Obviously, we mentioned this game at Santa Clara is huge. The game at Pacific is huge. I will be so curious to see how we play Porter again in round 2 when we get another crack at Loyola. Because that is something that I do think that Wayne has showed his coaching prowess at over the years, is that when he gets that second look at a team, the adjustments are good.
Totally.
Especially when the first game's a road game and the second game's a home game. And that is a worthy fear. Like it's okay to be like, oh, I don't know about certain aspects of this team. When you get a super athletic big who can shoot, we will be limited. But there's also other things they can throw at them. You guys said a lot of like so much that I agree with. I do just want to profess my love for Damarco Minor on this podcast. One of the guys I think we all kind of, when the transfer news came about, we were just like a hooper from Chicago, like let's fucking go. But the way he stuffs the stat sheet and plays so goddamn hard, like he is the first player of this ilk since GP2. And I know that seems like it's like heresy to compare anyone to GP2, and he's not the same dunker. It's not the same bloodlines or anything like that. But how many guards of that size do that much scoring, assisting, rebounding, stealing, blocking, and just getting inside of passing lanes? Like, there's nothing he's bad at. And I love players like that. And this is such a sensational find in the transfer portal for this coaching staff. A guy out of Southern Illinois, Edwardsville, like there's so many players in the country who should be playing at better schools. And when you're at a school like Oregon State, a big thing to be successful or to differentiate yourself is to find those players who have slipped through the cracks. Damarco Minor clearly slipped through a bunch of cracks. And I'm sad for him because he could be he should have been playing at a big time program this whole time. But I'm happy that he's with us now. And I think he's going to lead us to some big wins. And I love watching him play basketball.
There was a rebound that he got against San Diego.
He jumped so high. I love guards who jump that high.
I think his waistline was at Matthew Marsh's.
I love it when they don't need to jump that high and then they do it anyway, just to be like, I can do this too. Yeah, that was phenomenal. And he's done that like once a game at least.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right though. He is a renaissance man of sorts. There isn't anything that he can't or is not willing to do out on the court. One other thing that I noticed is, so I think we were up by 20 against San Diego. Maybe 3 minutes left in the game. We're shooting a free throw. We miss it. The ball's starting to bounce out of bounds, and Fala dives for the ball out of bounds and tries to throw it in. And it's like one of those things that goes unnoticed and sort of overlooked, but not every team is going to be diving for a ball when they're up 20 with 3 minutes left in a game that, half the people have already left.
Right.
And I think that is a testament to this team. And we've talked about it before, but like this team's bought in 100%. And that's what Tinkle, right. I don't know if Tinkle's had a team that's been bought in 100% before.
I can't remember. Coach's sons were there to help kind of trickle down the message.
I don't even know. Yeah, maybe you're right.
That's probably the closest he's gotten. Not saying they were all bought in, but I think that's the closest that he's gotten.
I think there's also more natural talent on that team. Like guys like Fala and like Lila Vicious, and Rataj too. These are guys who have like played against grown men in their home countries, where it's like, you're not taking a fucking playoff. Like, of course you're diving for that ball. Like,
yeah.
What the hell do you think what else are you going to be doing? Yeah. So I think
Pac-12 basketball, it means more.
It just means more.
Yeah,
man. So
hey, I want to clarify though my Baron Davis statement, because I was just on a whim every time watching Minor hoop. It reminds me of B. Diddy.
I love Baron Davis. So please talk more about Baron Davis.
So I want to say this, because this is where it gets a bit interesting, is that if you're looking at just this year for DeMarco thus far, the field goal percentage is much lower than Barron. I think Barron was a better finisher at the rim, especially in college, than DeMarco has shown thus far. He shot 48% field goal percentage, and right now DeMarco's at 34.5%. But 3-point percentage, almost the identical amount of 3-pointers per game. Minor 3.3. This is Baron Davis's sophomore year before he went pro, 3.8. And they're both shooting just about 33%, 34% from the 3-point line. Then you've got, then free throw. Sorry. DeMarco's crushing B. Diddy, dude. He's got 80% versus 60%. Okay. Now it gets interesting. This is the stat stuffing.
Wait, DeMarco's at 80%?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is the stat stuffing statistics that make me think of him as Barron watching him on the court. And total rebounds this season thus far, average per game, 4.7 for DeMarco. for all of Barron's sophomore year, averaged 3.6.
Okay.
Assists, DeMarco 5.2. Barron 5.1. Steals, DeMarco 1.8. Barron 2.5. Points per game.
Yeah.
Points per game was 15.9 because of the better field goal percentage for Barron and 9.6 currently for DeMarco. It doesn't mean he can't make up that average, but that is like, I mean, within a margin of error, nearly identical. Style of play.
How about blocks?
Blocks. Let's see. DeMarco's got 0.3 a game, and Barron's got 0.4. Had 0.4.
What year was Barron's sophomore year of college? What was his final college season?
98, 99.
UCLA, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
He was
Which
awesome.
means how old was DeMarco?
Which means not alive, probably.
Not alive, for sure. He's definitely not 26.
How old were we? Let's not answer.
I feel really old.
Good. Baron Davis. That's a great pull, though, especially, across, different program comparison. Baron B. Diddy was amazing.
Yeah. What's unique? This is what I think is really interesting about this team, or sort of where this season's going to go. I think the West Coast Conference has a lot of really good teams. Right. Too many
good teams.
Too many good teams. Yeah. Washington State's really good. USF's really good. St. Mary's, Gonzaga, and Oregon State. Only two of those teams at most is getting into the tournament. And you can bet that Gonzaga is going to be one of them. Would you guys agree with that?
I mean, I think the expectations say they should be.
I could see a world where 3 get in, but probably not.
I think it would be really tough to get 3 in.
I think we would have had to have beaten Oregon and beaten North Texas, and then have like St. Mary's play their asses off, or Wazoo play, because I know Wazoo lost to Washington. There would have had to have been more in the non-conference part of the season, but Gonzaga, you can just pencil in Gonzaga you could pen in Gonzaga to the tournament now. There's probably one other spot, and you gotta beat Gonzaga to get there. I could see there's maybe a fraction of a percent where if just Oregon State and St. Mary's both ball out, but Gonzaga still gets the auto bid, that St. Mary's and Oregon State both get in, but it would be hard and you would need someone else to fuck up. So
I could see 3 teams getting in if there were 2 very clearly elite teams like St. Mary's and Gonzaga, and then someone else won the conference tournament. That could happen. But I think realistically, you're going to have 2 schools at most get an at-large bid.
Right. It's basically St. Mary. I think you got to look at it as St. Mary's, San Francisco, Wazoo, and Oregon State are playing for one spot.
Yeah. And I don't know if Oregon State's the best out of those 4 schools. I don't know if Oregon State's the worst out of those 4 schools, because those USF, St. Mary's, and Washington State are all really, really good.
Right. We haven't seen much competition between those 4 yet either. So it's going to be the rest of the season's going to be intense.
Here's the other thing that kind of makes me nervous. Is at the Diamond Head Classic, we did make it to the championship game, but we did it by the skin of our teeth, and we beat an Oakland team that is not good. They're better than their record, but they're not good, and we had to come back in dramatic fashion and beat them in overtime.
College of Charleston is not a bad program. That's a program that does stuff.
Also, I'd rather that we face some adversity and figure out how to win the game we were supposed to win in a way that we shouldn't have won it now.
I agree with you there. All I'm saying is that there is a very valid argument to make that Oregon State just really struggles away from Gill. And that makes me really nervous.
I mean, I think that's still TBD. You might be right.
Yeah,
I think that most teams do struggle away, but 2-1 on the neutral site, and I know that one was a little bit iffy, but losing to Nebraska I don't think is anything
No
that
shame
anyone
in
should
that.
like hang their head about.
Agreed.
And this is, again, a fairly recently built and new team. As the season progresses, I want to see some growth on the road, see some resiliency, like see them be able to bounce back from a tough stretch, come out of a timeout and just execute and focus and follow the game plan. I think that was a lot of stuff that was lost over the last few years under Tinkle.
And the conference tournament will be in Las Vegas, FYI. Neutral site. It's 2 weeks before my bachelor party, so if you want to get there that early, Benny,
so,
extend it.
Yeah, that would help me out.
I'll be there.
I'll just hang out with you then.
Yeah.
And look, like Terry, I think it was you that mentioned that there are a number of players on Oregon State that have played professionally.
Yeah.
But not
I
together.
think that will help.
Right.
Not together.
And it's only been 2 road games that they've gotten to test this. So they do need to test it more, but results need to start happening.
Yeah.
For sure, because you're not going to get an at-large bid if you lose another game to
anyone besides
Santa Clara.
No.
And you have to
you can lose
USF.
to Gonzaga or
and that University of North Texas game was just a heartbreaker. They should have beat them.
It really was.
But the dagger at the end was just brutal.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, you have to beat USF, St. Mary's, Washington State at least one of the 2 times, probably all of those schools. And you have to beat probably 2 of them, 2 out of both times.
2 out of the both times.
Figuring that you're going to lose to Gonzaga twice.
Nah, we're going to be.
Think about the culture shock of having to go from Santa Clara to Stockton within a 4-day span, 2-day span.
Is that where Pacific is? Is Stockton?
Yeah.
I will say part of the luxury of being in the West Coast Conference is it does have some pretty elite destinations to go to.
I drove past Stockton on Saturday.
Will Dallas Braden be at the game in Stockton?
What's that?
Will Dallas Braden be at the game in Stockton?
Is he from Stockton?
Yeah.
Stockton's favorite.
My parents are from Stockton.
No way.
Dallas Braden
I
and
didn't know
JP's
that.
parents.
My mom went to high school in Stockton. My dad grew up and went to high school in Stockton.
No.
St. Mary's.
Did they know each
Lincoln
other
High School.
before they went to UCLA?
No. Well, before my mom went there, yeah. Not before my dad went there. Yeah. They went to Lincoln High School in Stockton.
Your mom went to Lincoln High School?
Mm-hmm.
In Stockton.
So did your wife?
I know.
There are a lot of
mother-in-law and my father-in-law. Yeah.
So did Stephon Marbury in Coney
So
Island.
did Jabari Johnson?
So did Jake Bodie.
We're all related.
Nice.
Can I say one thing about Oregon State men's basketball? Can this be the last thing that we say about it?
Okay, that's fine.
You're gonna like this, JP.
Okay, good.
Oregon State.
I'm listening carefully.
Oregon State men's basketball is going to beat Gonzaga at Gill.
Oh, yeah.
Because Benny said figuring you lose to Gonzaga twice. We're winning at Gill.
I'm just saying numbers.
Clearly,
I would love for us to beat Gonzaga.
Wolf
and I think
of
there's a
fucking
chance.
Wall Street. That wasn't really a math movie.
Pump and dump.
When Oregon State men's basketball plays Gonzaga at Gill
Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific.
A week from Thursday at 8 p.m. Pacific. Not at Pacific, but 8 p.m. Pacific time. Oregon State is going to win. January 16th, Oregon State victory.
I'm going to go to that game just because you said that.
Do it.
Ooh.
I hope you go to that game.
I can't get to a Thursday night 8 p.m. game, but I'm going to go to Santa Clara against Santa Clara in 4 weeks. Go
and pick up skins on the way there and be loud. And the Payton-ers will probably be there too. Shout out the Payton-ers podcast.
Yeah.
And it's going to be amazing.
You better do it.
I'm planning on it.
Thursday, January 16th. Gonzaga. Remember when Gonzaga joined the Pac-12 and our expectations was Gonzaga? All like at the same time. God, I fucking love you guys. All right.
Future Pac-12 schools having an elite basketball year this year.
Yeah.
Utah State, Boise State, Washington State, Oregon State, Gonzaga, not even counting San Diego State.
Yeah.
San Diego State's not having a great year this year, but Utah State was like 12-1.
Neither is Fresno State, but that doesn't. And I haven't even looked at Colorado State. Fresno State did when they had Paul George. Yeah. I was about to say Paul Pierce. Paul Pierce did not go to Fresno State.
Like 15 years ago.
Didn't Jerry Tarkanian coach there too?
Jerry Tarkanian, probably.
I think he did coach at Fresno State.
It blew my mind earlier. The Giants signed Justin Verlander. This is totally off topic, but they signed Justin Verlander to a 1-year deal. And Andy was like, why do I recognize that name? And I go, probably because when Pablo Sandoval hit 2 home runs off him in the World Series on his way to hitting 3 in one game back in 2012.
Yeah. Funny story. Justin Verlander's rookie year was the year I was born.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was like, the guy's still playing.
Not true, and
he also got $15 million.
43.
Parents, get your kids into baseball. Period. Guaranteed money. When they're 42 years old, they get 1-year deals for $15 million.
Dude, there's 5 and 6 who the fuck did season. The Orioles have signed? Okay, Benny Justin
Hodgins
signed with the Niners.
Isaiah Hodgins signed with the Niners on a futures reserve contract. Isaiah Hodgins.
No way!
Just signed with the Niners. Yeah. Okay, Benny. Justin Verlander is 3 years older than you.
Yeah, he was 3 when he was a rookie.
He was. What did you think Rookie of the Year was based on?
Yeah.
They had to change it to the Cubs because they were like, no pitcher for the Cubs is ever good. That's they need to know it's a fantasy. So that's why
the Tigers were terrible then too. So it's like, which terrible team are we going to go for? Which is the worst of the worst?
Now the Cubs can have a good pitcher, but only for one game. Yeah. Kerry Wood.
Oh, I saw Kerry Wood pitch after his major strikeout game, whatever it was. 24 strikeouts.
20, I think it was 20, but 24.
Whatever it was. Better. I watched the next game was at Candlestick, and my mom brought 30. Me and a friend that he pitched in, and we watched him, and he was not nearly as good.
Right? Yeah. He was just like, I'm fucking done with this now. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to stay in shape when you live in Wrigleyville. It's like you walk outside and breathe the air and you're shit faced.
Just going to Sluggers.
Oh man. Oh, we do need to talk about Oregon State women's basketball as well, which picked up.
While we're talking about Sluggers, I know they're not current Oregon State athletes, but shout out to Tanner Smith and Sarah Hendiges.
Oh, hell yeah. Tanner Smith and Sarah Hendiges are engaged. Yeah. We better be invited to that fucking wedding. I'm just kidding. You don't have to invite us. But we would also
if it's in Miami, you could invite us.
If it's in Miami, if it's in Lexington, Kentucky goes hard too. Low key. Or if it's in Oregon, which it should be, or wherever.
Or Arizona.
Tanner, you were born in Minnesota. Come on, man.
Yeah. Come on, return to your roots.
Have your wedding in Minnesota where I don't
have your wedding in the north while it's still the north before we acquire Canada.
And not the mid.
Before it's just southern Canada.
You're just going to be mid.
Well, you've been the mid.
The Minnesota. The Minnesota Vikings.
Hey, they weren't even anywhere close to mid this past Sunday night.
No, they were really good.
No, they were super. No, they were really bad on Sunday, but they're going to be really good for the rest of the season. Anyway, shout out Tanner and Sarah, and also shout out Scott Ruick and AJ Murat and Katarina Ferreira and the Oregon State women's basketball team, who did just lose to Wazoo, god damn it, but did get things turned around. Handing Portland. The Portland Pilots, who are 14-0 at Portland, at the Child Center. I love
Oregon State's post. We're the captains now.
We are the captains now. Oh, yeah, because the men beat Portland.
Get that hat.
Yeah, we need that hat. Oregon State marketing, Sarah Elcano or anyone, please listen. Sell that Benny Beaver captain's hat.
You'll be able to buy any player with NIL money with all the money that you'll get.
You have guaranteed 3 buyers right now on this podcast.
Captain's hats sold well for the Warriors with Captain Clay. So
I will write you a blank check for that hat. I love that hat so much.
There you go.
Yeah.
Think of what
Take whatever you want.
Think of what that would do for your NIL. You could pay a new prospect in expired Dogecoin.
Whoops.
Oh man, Oregon State women's basketball, big game against San Francisco at Gill on Thursday, January 9th. They're 7-9, which is not where we want them to be. But after what they started the season at, after the complete rebuild that Scott has had to deal with, losing almost the entire roster. Not everyone, though. Kelsey Reese is balling. AJ Murat balling, as always. Kennedy Schuler also balling. Love those girls. And they've picked up some impressive wins, winning at Gonzaga, at Portland, taking care of business against LMU at home. A tough loss on the Palouse at Wazoo this past Saturday. But I think they've turned a corner, turned a new leaf for the better, and we'll see this team playing the Oregon State basketball that we are accustomed to in no time.
They're gelling. Are you gelling?
They're gelling. So gelling.
Like Magellan.
Like Magellan. I'm so gelling. God,
is Magellan canceled? I'm sorry.
I don't think so.
What is Magellan exactly?
No, Magellan was like
he's like a sailor.
Sailor
dude with his pimped out Gucci shoes.
Da 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 da, cause I'm so fly.
Yeah, he was saying that on the top of his captain's quarters.
And my mama.
They're like, shut up, Magellan.
Can we play 5 seconds of Big Timers Still Fly? Or are we still banned from 5 seconds?
I'm just worried about getting banned again.
Okay.
That took me a lot of effort to get that reinstated on YouTube.
Too
much effort.
Ooh, that was too much effort.
Hey, totally off topic, but I watched the final episode last night. Have you guys seen We Crashed?
No.
The WeWork story with Jared Leto.
No.
Highly recommend.
How many
Apple TV?
Episodes?
8.
8? Okay. I'll go watch all 8 right now.
Yeah, it's so good.
I'm watching Squid Games too.
Oh, me too.
Dude, I need to get on that.
I really want to watch Silicon Valley again.
Do you want? I'll start season S1E1 tonight. Want to do that, Jay? I'll go on that journey.
Convince Annie. It may be tomorrow.
Who's the actor in there?
TJ Miller is in there.
Miller.
He was canceled.
TJ Miller. He was
like half canceled, right?
Well, if you're half canceled, you're canceled.
Yeah.
Have you been half canceled? Probably.
I don't think I'm relevant enough to be any kind of canceled. I should be.
Give yourself more credit.
What did TJ Miller do? I forgot.
I think he
was he
sexually assaulted somebody?
Was he
should have been full canceled.
Rapey? Was he gross? I can't remember.
Yeah, accused of sexually assaulting. Or sexually harassing. No, sexually assaulting a woman or a victim, at least, while they were in college. Oh, it says assaulting her while she was in college. So, yeah.
Yikes.
Oh, my God.
Yep. So don't grow a weird handlebar mustache beard combo.
Yeah.
No, just keep the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like we're doing.
Don't be weird. Don't get canceled.
All or none.
Yeah. There's a trickle down effect. If you're gonna buy in on that, you're part of the cancel crew for our cancel culture.
All right. But you can still watch Silicon Valley and take notes on the relevance of how it did pretty accurately predict the future.
A lot of it, yeah.
In a lot of ways.
True.
In really a lot of ways. Especially how tech companies interact with each other. On.
Yeah.
Too spot on, but also
very close to home.
Just hysterical. So fun being back with you guys. I don't know.
Hell yeah.
Season 5.
It's about time.
This is S5.
2025. Let's go.
S5E1.
E1. Like start from the beginning.
See, the last couple of seasons have been 45 episodes of Belligerent Beavs. JP shared earlier today. Our second season was 48 That's 48 episodes in 52 weeks, which is insane. We're not doing that again. My New Year's resolution is to do less than 48 episodes and hopefully less than 45. More than 40, less than 45, I think is probably the sweet spot for us. But we will be here. We'll be back next week to check in on those New Year's resolutions and Oregon State hoops and to pontificate more on the offseason wins of Trent Bray and the Oregon State football team. Maybe we'll dive deep on a few other Oregon State storylines. Maybe we'll talk about Silicon Valley. Maybe definitely other things, maybe Christmas gifts we returned or whatever you guys want to talk about.
Hey, maybe we can talk about if Oregon State gets to the NIT, will you request the NIT to be played on the big screen at Stadium Swim instead of the NCAA tournament? Because I will.
Yes, I absolutely will do that.
It's also, a fair question.
Me too.
If Oregon State makes the NIT, I will prepare a whole NIT manifesto of how this is a good thing, because I've been wanting Oregon State to be in the NIT for so long, because I kind of gave up on this is pre-Elite Eight run and pre even Tinkle getting to the tournament in 2016. I was like, I just want to go to the fucking NIT. And every year it seemed like we were going to go to the NIT. It was like we got snubbed, and then Tinkle was like, we're turning down the invite to the CBI, which I'm fine with. But then it was the other years, it was like we went to the NCAA tournament and didn't get to play in the NIT. I have been to an NIT final at Madison Square Garden. I love the NIT.
That's cool.
So if we're in the NIT, I will be the number one NIT cheerleader. But we're not talking about that until goddamn Selection Sunday and they tell us that Oregon State's not playing in the NCAA
tournament.
They
are.
They won't.
Yeah, they are.
They'll tell us we are.
We are. Belligerent Beavs, the 16 seed, going up.
We are.
Against Tennessee.
The Beavers. He is. Terry. This is the outro now.
This is the new outro.
Belligerent.
Damn it. Now I have no new merch.
It sounds just like the Hit 'em High Monstars anthem, which I think you probably could play 5 seconds of, JP, because that got taken off Spotify and other shit. But
no, it's still copyrighted.
Don't even risk it. Too good of an anthem. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in to this season 5 premiere of the Belligerent Beavs Podcast. So great to be back with you, and we will be back more regularly for the rest of the month and the year, and are so excited to be with you to break down the rest of this basketball season. Obviously, we'll have baseball and softball coming up, spring football. So much shit happening. Beavs and the pros. We'll all be together at my bachelor party, and maybe we'll even record a wedding episode. That would be fun. Live from the ceremony. Here are the vows. We probably won't do that.
I'll mic up everybody. I'm doing it.
That'd be amazing. In secret, though, so that no one knows they're mic'd up. That would be the real juicy
only
part.
us three, and then we'll capture any sort of local chatter
conversations.
My relatives would say some weird shit.
Yeah,
or will say some weird shit.
Yeah,
it'll be the best. But thank you, Beaver fam. Again, Happy New Year. Hit us up on social, belligerentbeavs at gmail.com, www.belligerentbeavs.com, www.belligerentbeavs/merch, at belligerentbeavs on Twitter, at belligerentbeavs everywhere else. That means Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, MySpace, Friendster, Pinterest,
OnlyFans,
ESPN, OnlyFans for sure, but tread lightly. ESPN Fantasy Football app.
I'll stop trying to plug yourself.
You just plugged myself by mentioning that. I was stopping at ESPN Fantasy Football. What is this? What is this? Is this a champion?
I just got congratulations. You tried when I tried to log in yesterday.
And you did try.
You got last.
Oh, you did get last.
Yeah, I forgot.
That's bullshit though, because you were like 6th in the regular season.
I was like 5th.
You're like 6th,
but yeah, I was tied for like 3rd.
You got last, should go to last in the regular season. The consolation playoffs shouldn't be a thing, but that should be an all.
They count towards win share. Money gets redistributed.
Okay. Well, anyways, I hope everyone listening to this won their fantasy football leagues, and if you didn't, take solace because I did, and we are the same. We all love you. Thank you so much, listener, for starting part of your new year with us. Episode 168, season 5, episode 1. And no matter what they do, no matter what they say, no matter what they take away, no matter how early on in the year you give up on those New Year's resolutions, never fear, because you cannot spell chop 'em without hope. So chop 'em.
Chop 'em.
Chop 'em.
And we and Beavs back, baby.
Go visit Terry in Minnesota.